A very warm welcome, dear participants, to our Austria session, this wonderful Smart City 365 Congress and B2B event. Yes, it's Austria. I know. Do you know Austria? I know many people have a different picture of Austria. For example, many people think Austria is music, classical music, and Mozart and concert halls. That's where we spend our time, and we live off tourists who come and visit us also in winter, of course, going skiing. All Austrians are skiing champions. Or some people also think, well, we have this Sachertorte and other sweets, and we like spending our time in the coffee shops and talking to each other. Well, I think this is not quite wrong, but I can also say that many people have this stereotype of Austria and say, well, what does Austria produce actually? We've seen the tourism and we have the lovely landscape, but products made in Austria, do you know any? I think Austria is surprisingly ingenious. It does have quite a few surprises for you, also in the manufacturing sector and the services sector with products. It's a country in the middle of Europe with a very strong economy, one of the highest GDPs per capita in the world, and which is very important, and that's also where the strength comes from, it's a very high research and development quota of about 3.19% of the GDP. And I think this is the base, this is the reason why Austria is so surprisingly ingenious and has a few products which surprise and where many people don't know that they come from Austria. Like if you're flying in Turkish Airlines, you will have food coming from Do & Co, with a joint venture of Turkish Airlines. Or, you know, if you like Formula One racing, you have the Red Bull team and of course the energy drink, which many people also think it's coming from a different country. And for those who remember Marilyn Monroe singing the song for her favorite president, all this glamour and glitter, it's also from Swarovski stones, which you can buy everywhere. So some of these trademarks from these companies you might know, but perhaps you haven't associated them with Austria. But actually, as I said, the R&D is the most important part, and we even have Chinese companies coming to Europe, to Austria for their R&D, and Infineon, big computer chip manufacturer, has also opened a new R&D and production facility in Austria because they think it's a good location to be. And when we look at the companies in Austria, as I said, not many trademarks, but many products, many companies with niche products which are world class, which are world champions. We call them Austria's hidden champions. We even have a brochure, which I put the link here for you. You can have a look at it. 100 companies, all of them in their area, world class. You won't know most of them, but you might have used many of them because we try to say, and we like to say, Austria's inside. So very often technology, which is in other products, which you know from the trade name, will come from Austria. So we also like to say sometimes many things wouldn't work without the inside, the heart of them being from Austria. Have a look at the brochure and be surprised. And today, of course, we are talking about smart cities. So again, smart cities is many things, as you know. It's from smart farming to smart energy systems to smart waste, smart mobility, smart governance, smart services. Everything together makes a smart city. That's why it's such a broad field. And again, I think we have lots of Austrian companies who have contributed, who have technology and products for smart cities. And we also have a city, many cities. A city like Vienna, it's world leader in smart city technologies and using them also and making Vienna a smart city. We will hear about that later in this session with two contributors from Vienna who will talk about that. But again, let me just have a look, and just a very, very small look at the products in Austria. We have a brochure with about 180 pages of information on smart city and on companies, of course. Again, I can invite you to download the brochure and have a look what could be there also for you. Just as an example, I've taken a few companies which are also active in Turkey, like Austria Card Systems. They have smart cards, that's the number and the name already says, and they are active here in Turkey and very in many fields. And we have the company like Ski Data, which derives from skiing. That's true, but actually it's a company which has smart systems for parking. I think that's a big issue also in cities, and so on. If we go a step further, what's the main problem in the city? It's moving people around. One technology could be like the Austrian company Doppelmayr, one of the world leaders in people movers. Those who live in Istanbul may have used it already, the funicular from Taksim to Kabataş. That's a typical example. And the other side is, of course, the cars. We will not get rid of cars that quickly. So what about the traffic? I don't have to tell you about the problems we have with traffic. So one of the big companies in the world, also Svarco, which does traffic management. So next time the traffic isn't moving, you can ask if they're using Svarco technology to make the traffic a little bit smoother and to find ways to get the flow going again. These are two examples for traffic. But one other area where every city has a problem is, of course, energy and waste. And why not make energy from waste? So again, one of the world leading technologies, the company Jenbacher from Austria, is just now in a project to utilize the waste of Istanbul. It's a new site which is outside of Istanbul, where in a few years they will produce more than 72 megawatts of electricity from the whole solid waste, which is then transformed into biogas and then transformed into electricity. So a very smart technology for a city to get rid of the waste and to produce electricity. So these are just very few examples. There are many, many more. And if you look around, you'll see that in Istanbul, you have lots of other areas where you are using smart technologies. In this Austria session, we have two speakers also, Mr. Nikolaus Summer. He's a senior expert of urban innovation Vienna. And then we have Mrs. Eva Chernohorski, who is the Director of Technology Services of the Vienna Business Agency. They will talk about what Vienna really does in the smart city field. So not only the products, but also how do you implement them and how does it really work when you're trying to put up a smart city in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you much success and much interest. I hope you will get a few new ideas here, and you're always welcome to come to Austria, see how the smart city works in Vienna, and also which products you could also get from Austria to implement in your own city. So enjoy this Austria session. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me. My name is Nikolaus Summer. I'm a senior expert here at Urban Innovation Vienna, Vienna Smart City Agency. Our main task is actually to bring together innovative people from in and outside the city of Vienna to be kind of an innovation broker. And at the think tank, as a consultancy and as process and project managers, we try to support the city of Vienna when it comes to implementing its smart city strategy or its smart city framework. And it's an honor for me to introduce you today to Vienna's approach and to outline the hopefully most important information in order to enable you to understand the city's approach. First, I would like to familiarize you with a couple of basic information and just inform you about some characteristics, Viennese characteristics that are important to understand the city's approach. First of all, Vienna is quite a compact city, at least by Central European standards and when it comes to its historical downtown areas. So Vienna is known to be a city of short distances, relatively densely populated, and of course, Smart City Vienna's concept or claim is to remain a city of short distances, as this is going to be one of the most important preconditions to morph into a smart city. How do we want to do that? The city of Vienna is eager to develop mixed-use quarters as regional centers or local centers that are scattered around its historical downtown center. So what city planners and pundits are looking for is to create something what one could frame as livable density here in Vienna. Secondly, green spaces are very characteristic for the city of Vienna, with more than 50% of its space being green spaces. The city of Vienna also shows a continuous green belt, and agriculture as well as viniculture are important elements of urban life here in Vienna. And the smart city of Vienna's goal, of course, is to preserve these green spaces, even to extend green spaces, because we have a growing population here. And of course, that has to be managed in line or in conjunction with other smart city goals. Thirdly, Vienna is known to be a public owner of a vast majority of its infrastructure or of its technical infrastructure. So when it comes to the sewer system, water and waste management, energy grid, public lighting, public transport, and social housing, social and affordable housing, Vienna owns this infrastructure, which puts the city in a good starting position when it comes to implement smart city concepts or smart city quality criteria. Water is another field of strength for the city of Vienna, as the Viennese population has access to high quality tap water due to a mountain spring water supply line that exists since 1872. And why do I mention that? Because it's Vienna's claim to develop robust long-term infrastructures that create value in the long term. And of course, that's a much harder thing to do in the digital era with rapid product life cycles and such a dynamic development ongoing. The city of Vienna also showcases a very solid flood prevention system that at the same time is one of the city's biggest leisure areas, featuring 42 kilometers of city beach. And also its wastewater treatment facility is one of a kind, as it's not depending on external energy suppliers anymore since 2020. Public transport is another characteristic that has to be known when somebody wants to assess or understand Vienna's smart city approach. It's supposed to be the mobility backbone of the city, because public transport is still the by far most energy efficient mode of transport. 40% of the modal split share here in Vienna are performed at a only 5% proportion of the energy consumption in the field of mobility. Viennese are proud of the city's public transport system, and the political commitment also remains high, as the subway system is constantly extended. Right now, for example, we're constructing or building the first autonomous subway line here in Vienna. And most importantly, the annual season ticket is offered for €1 per day. So Viennese people can or have access to the public transport system for €365 per year, which is affordable in comparison with other European metropolis. And of course, strong policies contribute to smart city development as well. And what we could see here in the last couple of years, we could see a plus of more than 500,000 people, additional people being annual season ticket owners and using that. And of course, that contributed significantly to green and eco-friendly mobility here in Vienna. Affordable housing is another characteristical pillar of Smart City Vienna and a very important instrument to implement smart city criteria. Affordable housing, just to throw a couple of numbers at you, Vienna is right now possessing about 220,000 social housing units. And additionally, we have approximately a stock of 250,000 affordable housing units that are subsidized by the city and constructed by cooperative property developers. So this social housing system is quite sophisticated. It's long-standing. It has been developed since the interwar period here in Vienna, and it draws on pillars like social and ecological sustainability, architectural design, and affordability. It's very important to also understand that the housing policies and the housing system draw on an approach, what we call active land policy. That means that land reserves here in Vienna are managed cautiously with regards to the needs of social housing and the social housing field. Also, the city of Vienna uses developers competitions to filter the projects and to find the best projects. And the whole system is serving approximately 60% of Vienna citizens. So the incentive to own real estate in Vienna is a little bit smaller than elsewhere. And also the social housing law here in Vienna is kind of defining relatively low income limits. That means that almost the whole middle class has access to this affordable housing system. So that puts away the stigma and gives you social diversity from the beginning on at the level of the building, at the district level, and at the citywide level. And that has proven to be a great success here in Vienna. And of course, this is a very important instrument to implement future smart city criteria as well. For example, all the social housing projects here in Vienna are developed according to the Austrian low energy building standard. So what defines Vienna? It's basically a blueprint for quality of life. Vienna stands for diversity, social inclusion, eco-friendly mobility, livable density, and a human-centric approach to digital transformation that one could frame digital humanism. So I don't think that I need to elaborate and talk a lot about the global challenges and the global megatrends we are all facing right now. The climate crisis, digitization, urbanization, and globalization are all too familiar for us. And of course, the pandemic added to the complexity since March 2020. I would prefer to talk about Vienna's response. And Vienna's response is its smart city framework strategy. The main claim of this holistic strategy is to ensure a high quality of life for everyone here in Vienna through social and technological innovation in all areas while maximizing resource preservation. So I would like to point to social and technological innovation. So that means that Vienna's smart city framework does not only focus on technological innovation and on digitization. Instead, it's supposed to be a framework that provides coherence to all sorts of sectoral activities, strategies, roadmaps, and initiatives in the field of mobility, for example, energy, digitization, innovation management, urban development, environmental protection, climate protection, health, etc. And of course, we are very, very optimistic that this framework strategy will lead to smart projects and hopefully we'll be able to make use of all the synergies in the field. But of course, as always, we have to go through a reality check because once you have a holistic approach, a holistic framework strategy, you have to deal with complexity. And the complexity comes in the form of a lot of topical interrelations. And in the worst case, a smart city has to find ways to manage, to deal with, and to resolve conflicting targets and trade-offs as well. Just to give you one very basic example, if you want to remain a city of short distances, at the same time, if a city would like to provide affordable housing to everybody, if the same city would like to provide significant green spaces or even extend its green space proportion with a growing population, this city is facing trade-offs and has to find truly smart solutions at the governance level or at the process level in order to optimize the city's transformation. But what is true for the process level is also true for the project level, so to speak. And what the city of Vienna is trying to do is to provide a method in order to identify truly smart use cases. So just to simplify it a little bit, what pundits here in Vienna try to do is to assess technological value propositions, always with regards to their social impact, to their social benefits, and to their real ecological footprint. And if you do this analysis in synopsis with these other aspects, the pundits hope that we can find truly smart use cases by using that approach. And once we have identified these truly smart use cases, you can think about the economics, how to finance these use cases, whether the use case or the technology behind will be financed by the public sector or by the taxpayer, whether there will be some type of hybrid approach in terms of a public-private partnership, or in the best case, whether there is a business case behind that allows a business model or a company to provide the services and to perform the use case. I would also like to just illustrate Vienna's approach a little bit by just pointing to some project examples that are ongoing here in Vienna or that have been relevant for the Smart City Vienna process. First of all, I would like to tell you a little bit about the so-called Walter project. It has been a project conducted in the field of ambient assisted living. And the idea was to make elderly people more familiar with digital tools and services. And there were several use cases and several goals. It was a complex research project that the city of Vienna was trying to conduct over, I think, 3 years. And just to give you one example, the elderly were provided with certain equipment, for example, with smart watches, in order to transmit, for example, routine medical data to their doctors or to the hospitals. And the idea was, if elderly are comfortable with technologies like that, they can avoid to go to the hospital in a cumbersome way, to stand in the queue, to have long waiting times in the hospital, which could be really relevant in times of a pandemic. And most importantly, they could avoid the transport from their homes to the hospital and back again. And so the rationale was, if we could kind of convince plenty of elderly to use technologies like that, there may be some type of systemic gains in terms of reduction of carbon emission, etc. And the interesting thing was that people were very enthusiastic about learning about these new technologies. They enjoyed the peer learning groups, and they enthusiastically used this new technology. The technological value proposition worked. Everything was fine, but we did not experience, these type of systemic gains as we would have expected it. So researchers were kind of getting back, to the elderly, and they asked, why do you still go to the hospital? And they said, why not? It's a very convenient way to transmit medical data, but still I want to go to the hospital. And of course, the pundits tried to find out why that is the case. And a lot of the people who were, contributing in the research project were telling them because the way to the hospital is their one and only social interaction they have in their life per week. And that was a very important fact that has been overlooked in the concept phase. And I think that's a very nice anecdote that illustrates my point or our point, namely that a truly smart city has to take the social impact into consideration, has to analyze how innovations are used by people, what are the people's latent needs and the preferences, and only if we can really understand how a technology is going to impact social life, we have the chance to come up with the proper implementation and to be a truly smart city in the future. Another project example is smart traffic lights. Vienna is eager to develop and roll out a network of so-called smart traffic lights. We are in the midst of the implementation phase right now. The idea is to use cameras and sensors in order to record and analyze pedestrians, their walks and traffic flow in the city. But of course, once again, referring to Vienna's holistic approach, that's nothing that comes easy, because if you record 24 hours a day for 365 days per year, high resolution image data on several spots in the city, you almost automatically run into issues with privacy and data protection. On the other hand, you have to question what is the true opportunity cost? Because of course, if you collect all these high resolution image data, if you transmit it to some type of data center, if you process it there, you will, require energy to do that. And the true opportunity cost would be, or the significant question is this new or additional energy demand bigger than potential gains a city can have when it comes to optimize stop and go traffic via networked smart traffic lights, via the reduction of waiting times, and so motivating people for active mobility, for walking instead of taking their cars. The solution here was pretty straightforward. It was mobile edge computing. So the answer is the image data never leaves the traffic light. So it gets instantly analyzed, and only anonymized values of data are getting transmitted to the data center. That brings down the data traffic significantly. That gives us the opportunity to protect privacy and data accordingly, and also the opportunity cost is a net positive in that way. Vienna Provides Space is another project I would like to cite. It's a very important project because it's one significant initiative of the city of Vienna to digitize its public spaces. The approach is quite similar to Google's, but in comparison with Google, Vienna is trying to generate high quality image data of its public space. And on the basis of this data, a 3D point cloud is generated. And this project facilitated a couple of use cases. First and foremost, end-to-end digitization of approval processes. So in the future, Viennese should be much more comfortable and convenient when it comes to using the public space and getting through the necessary approval processes. For example, if they want to create a sidewalk cafe, use parklets in the warm period of the year, or to organize some type of street festival. Put simply, use the public space as their second living room. But there are also other use spaces that have become more interesting, facilitated by this project, like virtual inspection, virtual measurement, and digital object extraction. So this project is also a very important prerequisite step in order to develop a geodigital twin, and in the long term, in the next couple of years, to also develop a full digital twin here in Vienna. I also want to briefly cite to Vienna's open government data approach. Vienna has already published more than 600 open data sets, and approximately 300 applications have been developed out of it so far. Vienna is quite proud about its open government data approach, and the city believes that open data and hybrid forms, such as data commons, will be very important, not only for the local economy, for local innovation, but also for citizen participation and transparency in the future. Vienna is also trying to facilitate collaboration between the Vienna city administration, the public sector, and local ICT businesses by running a collaborative platform. The main goal is awareness raising, project initiation, especially in the field of digital education, digital health, and active assisted living. And also, last but not least, Vienna is making use of the crowd, for example, by the smartphone-based issues management tool, we call it Sachs Wien, Tell It Vienna. So citizens can communicate directly with the city of Vienna, report their concerns, report and submit damages in the public space, etc. And the great thing about it, that artificial intelligence software helps the public stuff to filter and to prioritize submissions, and so to optimize communication between the citizens and the public sector or the Vienna city administration. It has been really popular, and we're proud that we could share this technology with other European cities already. I've focused today on digital projects, but of course we have several urban development projects as well here in Vienna. Right now we have approximately 40 bigger and smaller urban development projects ongoing here in Vienna. The biggest one is Aspern-Seestadt, which will be a completely new neighborhood for approximately 25,000 people. If you have questions on Vienna's smart city approach, if you are interested in specific projects or in contact person, please do not hesitate to contact us. We are Vienna Smart City Agency, Urban Innovation, and you are welcome to get back to us at any time. Once again, thank you for having me, and I hope it was quite instructive for you. I'm looking forward to your questions, and good luck for your work. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation to your conference. And after you have heard about the smart city framework of the city of Vienna, I'd like to address the topic of resilience for smart cities, as I think that resilience became a very important topic for smart cities, at least during the last year of the pandemic. I think that all cities of the world became aware of the fact that it is really necessary to have a well-equipped welfare system and to have good equipped health institutions to make cities resilient. But I'd like to shed some light on what innovation can contribute to make our cities resilient and to make them able to cope with challenges that are unexpected. And therefore, I'd like to invite you to look back to the year 2020. In Austria, it was March the 13th, when the Austrian government announced the first lockdown, and that came into force on Monday, the 16th of March. So over the weekend, all Viennese, or a lot of Viennese companies, had to shut down their businesses and had to work from home offices, or weren't even able to work in the restaurants, in the hotels, and so on. And economists then forecasted a decline of turnovers of 400 up to 800 million euros per week in Vienna only. News for us at the Vienna Business Agency. So it was very clear that this was a catastrophe for companies, or for a lot of them, at the business location Vienna. And at the same time, we experienced that international supply chains completely collapsed. So in the beginning, it was very hard to get simple products such as toilet paper or yeast. So there was growing demand, and nobody expected that, and therefore there was trouble in the supply chain. In business premises, very strict rules were forced into place to keep the physical distance that was necessary to keep the virus from spreading. And so companies had to deal with that. And unfortunately, some companies even had to handle infection clusters amongst their employees. And I guess that all of you will agree that COVID-19 was disruptive for economy. On the other hand side, however, we saw what the Viennese economist Josef Schumpeter once called the creative destruction. It was impressive to see that so many companies moved their business to the internet immediately and came up with new ideas how to cope with the crisis. So for instance, I remember my institute for physical training for my back, where I have been doing my back training since very many years. And they moved the training to Zoom immediately. So I was able to attend the lessons in my living room, and that not only one day per week as I did it before, but theoretically I would have been able to attend every day. But in fact, I wasn't, because I was very busy at the Vienna Business Agency, because so many people, so many companies came up with ideas how to find new solutions to overcome the pandemic, or to deal with the pandemic in businesses. It was at the end of March 2020 when the first hackathon, Hack the Crisis, took place in Vienna, and we had more than 500 participants that worked on more than 50 project ideas and were accompanied by more than 60 mentors. So there was really so much innovative spirit and so much willingness to come up with bright ideas to tackle that crisis. And that was why the Vienna Business Agency decided to launch a new program that was called Innovate for Vienna. And its aim was to facilitate the development of innovative solutions that help to keep businesses and institutions in Vienna running during the COVID-19 pandemic. We provided an online platform. It was the same one as you are using now to attend the Smart 365 Cities conference, the B2Match platform. And we used this digital platform as well to enable the matchmaking of technology providers and social institutions and companies and so on to discuss ideas how to cope with the new situation. The city of Vienna provided a budget of 4 million euros to financially support the best ideas, to set them in place as soon as or as fast as possible. And in just 3 months, we received more than 200 applications that were evaluated by an expert jury alongside the criteria innovation, feasibility, and the impact of the solution to overcome the crisis. And finally, we were able to support 36 projects that received financial grants and that we accompanied to get in contact with lead users and with other partners that could contribute to conduct that projects and to get the products market ready as soon and as quick as possible. I'd like to show you 4 examples which projects we funded in that program. The first one is a COVID-19 test kit. This was invented in Vienna and is already at the market now, so it is used. You may already have heard that Austria is a world leader when it comes to testing. It's really amazing how the city of Vienna managed to establish testing facilities all over the city. And this test kit of Ingenetics company is one of the projects that we were able to support within the funding. Is also used to validate the kits according to the new in vitro diagnostics regulatory guidelines that come to force in 2022. Another example comes from Symptoma company. This is a digital health company. They are experts in artificial intelligence and machine learning in health topics, and they came up with the idea to provide a chatbot for the symptom checking. So people could use this chatbot to assess the risk of being infected by COVID-19. They were asked 20 questions about their symptoms, and this chatbot had an accuracy of 96% in assessing whether the risk of being infected is high or not so high. And in case there was detected a relevant risk, an appointment for a PCR test was triggered immediately. So this solution on the one hand side was a very good service for citizens, And on the other hand side, it revealed the public health authorities from a lot of workload. The third example I'd like to demonstrate addresses the area or the sector of event managers and museum directors and keep distance. So the Moonshiner company, together with the Austrian Institute of Technology, developed a software solution that enables easy booking of time slots, and that has a persuasive design that help people to keep within the time slots and to motivate them to go into rooms that are not that crowded. So the system supports the organizers of events and the managers of premises to come along with that physical distance regulatories. And the basic version of this TICU system, that's the name of it, is available as an open source solution. And we are very happy that Moonshiner company, together with Austrian Institute of Technology, were able to develop that solution within our Innovate for Vienna program. And I especially like my fourth example, which addresses a very, very important topic, which is loneliness. As you all may have experienced, COVID-19 meant that lots of people stayed at home and stayed at home alone. So lots of them became very lonesome. And to tackle that problem, social charity organization, a very big one here in Vienna, Caritas, partnered with a telecommunication provider, Magenta, and an IT company, Dataway IT Consulting, to develop a chatting network. This is called Plaudernetz in German, which means chatting network, and it connects people who are feeling lonely with volunteer chat partners to enable simple chats about what come up their mind very easily and uncomplicated by phone, and it's all anonymously, so a very easy way to get in contact with other people and to avoid loneliness. And this system has so far enabled more than 10,000 calls to prevent people from getting lonesome. Yeah, and accompanying those 36 projects showed once more that innovation is a very important ingredient to make cities resilient and to make cities agile, to find pandemic like COVID-19. But innovation is nothing you can simply switch on if you need it. I believe that this is a capacity you have to do exercise, as you have to exercise foreign languages or sports. And it's the same with innovation and with agile structures, I think. And therefore, it's very important for cities to dedicate resources to innovation and to agile management structures. And I believe that cities have to engage in prototyping projects and in feasibility projects, in living labs, even in research projects, to train that capacity of being agile and innovative. And it's necessary to collect experience and to develop routines in finding the proper partners, in designing contracts for innovation projects. You have to be flexible with your milestones, and you have to be agile in your project management. Yeah, and you have solutions that that manage the proof of concept in a small project, but then you want to scale them up for the whole cities. And I'm afraid that cities have to be prepared that some of the innovation projects may even fail. And it's very important to learn from that failures and to gain experience with that. And finally, but maybe this is one of the most important topics, is cities have to establish a network of pioneers. So I believe it's very important that city experts collaborate with other city experts. So thank you very, very much for providing the opportunity to do this at your conference. And cities have to establish a network with startups and with small and medium-sized enterprises and with citizens projects. So with pioneers that come up with new ideas how to make our cities a better place for us and for our children and for our grandchildren. And that is why we decided to move on with that Innovate for Vienna program. So we started a second round now, and we are looking for innovative answers to the long-term effects of COVID-19. And this program addresses small and medium-sized enterprises that want to do projects in Vienna. We are searching for ideas for new products, services, or business models that are innovative and at the same time feasible, and that will have an impact in our city. And we can provide up to 150,000 euros per project. Once more, we provide a matchmaking platform for the matchmaking with technology partners and with lead users. So you can use our webpage innovateforvienna.at to get in contact with other partners. So if you think of doing an innovation project in the city of Vienna, you're kindly invited to take the opportunity to watch out for business opportunities in our city. Yeah, and that's my final invitation and my claim at the same time, that we have to join forces to innovate for our cities. I believe that innovation is crucial for smart cities, and that collaboration is the key to co-create smart solutions that help to tackle the COVID-19 crisis, but the climate crisis as well, and the urbanization, which is a huge challenge for cities as well. I'm looking forward to do some partnering with you and wish you all the best for your conference.